We got some Rise on the Ronin first impression videos. You guys have played about like 2-3 hours or maybe 5 hours about the game. So we're gonna check Fighting Cowboy reactions on it, and also we're gonna check IGN. Let's get to it.
Cowboy here, and today we are going to be bringing you some early impressions of Rise of the Ronin. Now, what you're seeing before you is some B-roll footage supplied by PlayStation, so big thanks to them. And what I'm going to be sharing is my experiences based on the first 2 to 3 hours of the game. I got through like the opening tutorial, did a little bit of free roam, and made it into the first town. And you'll see bits and pieces of that in the B-roll footage. But I'm glad I'm getting a chance to bring some early footage to y'all and talk about the game, because I know a lot of people have been excited about this, and personally I think it's not going to live up to the hype some people have. Now let me explain. Obviously I am a big fan of Team Ninja. Neo 2 is my all-time favorite Souls-like. Wolong, even though it didn't vibe with me the way Neo 2 did, still had a blast with Wolong, played through all the DLCs. Stranger of Paradise, despite the miscomings with how the difficulty worked in there, still a lot of fun to play with the multi-class system. And when I think about Team Ninja's games, the one thing that stands out to me more than anything else is combat. They always have an incredibly high combat skill ceiling that is a little bit hard to pick up at first, but once you master it, there are very few games that feel as good as Team Ninja games do when you're engaging with the combat. And to start, that's probably one of the biggest downsides I see with Rise of the Ronin. Now, it's not that the combat's bad. It's not bad at all, actually. The parry timing is very tight. The combos are flashy. You got some special abilities on weapons. But with what I've come to expect of Team Ninja, this is absolutely a step backwards from the previous titles.
Bro.
Now, to break this down a little bit, your entire weapon's default combo is performed by just pressing square. In fact, there's actually an accessibility setting where with one square press, you'll go through your entire combo. Besides that, you hit triangle to perform your parry. Well timed. You can hit L1 to block. There is still a mechanic that's similar to key pulsing. Basically, as you attack, you build up blood on your blade. If you press R1 after attacking, you'll throw the blood off your blade and get back some of your stamina or some of your ki. And then besides that, while you are holding R1, you have special abilities that you can do with your weapon. So in my current playthrough, I'm using dual swords, and I have one that's very similar to Windstorm from Neo 2, and another that like puts both swords in front of you and then charges forward and hits the target. A couple of those moves have some like unique use cases, but for the most part, it's just kind of flavor of your month. Pick what you want, at least early on. I do want to stress that this is all my impressions just based on the first few hours of the game. And given we do have the stance system, I've gotten to a point where I've gotten like a second stance now, and that starts to open up. But the stance system is very rock, paper, scissors. So I guess a good example is with my dual blades. A lot of the stuff I'm fighting, I just have a disadvantage with. If I switch to an Adachi that has an additional stance unlocked, that gives me an advantage. And so it's like, oh, well, I might as well use this Adachi that has the stance advantage.
Right.
But each of those stances will have, different special abilities and a different play style for
Ghost of Tsushima was like that too. Like Ghost of Tsushima,
but at the end of the day,
had different stance
the basis of the combat is just one button. It's pressing square. Given you have to have good timing with your parries and whatnot, and you do have those special abilities with the weapons, I can't help but feel that coming into this game and looking at this based on the experience I had with subsequent titles, stuff like Neo, Wolong, and Stranger of Paradise, I can't help but feel that this is a step backwards. Now, at the same time, it certainly makes the combat more accessible, and it'll definitely make it appeal to a larger variety of people.
Okay, now I'm glad he said that, because now if Neo was that difficult for people to get their hands on and it's hard to play, nobody don't want to play a game that they can't play. So if Rise of the Ronin is more appealing for like people that really don't know how to play like open world games like that, and you could just go in there and trying to be the best as you can be, that is actually good, bro. Like, I mean, see, it's just hard to when you already played the Team Ninja games, it's kind of hard to take away from, okay, this is a new game. You always got to go back. We always got to compare something. That's the problem with us. We always got to compare stuff with stuff all the time. So, hey, look, I don't know.
But as somebody that typically gravitates towards Team Ninja's games because I want that super high intense combat where I'm rotating through my various stances to execute different combos and different moves. At least early on, it doesn't feel like this ever culminates to that. Even with the stances and the different specials I get, the specials I've done so far, they feel, I don't know, lackluster to an extent. So I did want that up front because this is, you know, when I think about these games, that's the biggest thing to me. When I'm playing Neo 2, it's about what's the sick combo I can do. Moving on from there, the open world also just kind of average. And I think one of the thoughts I had
world is average?
when I kept playing this is I would put this game in direct competition with Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost was a PS4 exclusive when it released. Samurai Adventure, open world. This is a PS5 exclusive Samurai Adventure, open world. And even just looking at this footage right here, like this does not remotely stack up to what Ghost of Tsushima looked like. And there's inspiration from a lot of games. There's obviously some inspiration from Ghost here. There's a little bit of inspiration from Elden Ring with like the open world Souls-like type vibe. Yes, the game does have Souls-like aspects where you drop your experience on death and enemies respawn. There's even a little bit of Sekiro inspiration with, you know, the big emphasis on parries and how that is a huge part of the game, which was also the case in Wo Long. But as I played through this, I couldn't help but feel like every game that it had taken inspiration from had done it better before. And it's really disappointing to me, I guess,
it's
in
hard
that
to
case.
say,
because
man.
From what I've played, like, there's nothing fundamentally bad about this game.
Okay.
You know, the combat's still crisp, it's responsive. There's the Neo-esque type loot system that you have going on. And there is a lot to enjoy here. There's a big open world. It's full of different activities that you can run around. There's good traversal options. There's the...
Okay, I did. Should that be enough? Should that be enough, though? Because, like, it's a different art style for Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima was looking for that typical, like, they wanted that beautiful scenery and all that, but like this, like, it's an art style. I don't think, like, I think we kind of, like, since we know how Ghost of Tsushima look and we see how this look, we're like, oh man, this is trash, man. But it's an art style. I feel like it's an art style, not because it look better than what it is. It's an art style they've been going for because, hey, it's their first ever open world game, so of course they got to do something.
The glider, the rope, which you're seeing right now in the footage.
Yeah, if
and
it
there
feels
is
good to
plenty
go
of
around
stuff
the
to
map.
enjoy here, but from a visual perspective and a world engagement perspective, this just feels very, very dated.
Oh.
You know, and I know I already brought it up before, but bringing back the Ghost of Tsushima example, it seems like it just did everything this game wanted to do, but better, and it was older. And I haven't even touched on the graphics yet. Y'all know I'm not a big graphics snob. You know, I play indie games all the time. Graphics is usually the thing that I'm least concerned with. And honestly, I think the graphics here are a step back from Wo Long and Neo 2.
Man.
I don't know if it's because they stretched their scope further, trying to make it into an open world adventure, but the graphics are not very good in this game. And while I'm not somebody that typically complains about graphics, we are looking at a single console exclusive. This is only coming out on the PS5. It's not like they had to develop this for, you know, PC, PS5, PS4, Series S, Series X. This is a PS5 exclusive. And it looks noticeably worse than other games that came out, even in the PS4 generation.
Man.
And I get it, you know, Koei Tecmo and Team Ninja, you know, looking at those games, they're not typically known for graphics. You know, graphics is the least of my concerns when I'm playing Wo Long or when I played Neo 2. But in the context of an open world environment, I want to be engrossed in that world. I want to feel like it's alive. I look at stuff like Ghost of Tsushima. I look at stuff like Cyberpunk. And the worlds are just beautiful to just run around in and experience. And one of the things I consistently felt as I was running around this world is that everything is very flat. I don't know if it's the way the lighting is done.
I think it's
the
style.
There's something with the color palette here that gives everything this very just flat feel to it. I don't know. It doesn't feel alive. It just feels like I'm just running places. It doesn't feel like I'm experiencing a world. And that's definitely an area that I think this greatly could have been improved. Especially because, like I said, this is, I mean, open world samurai game. It's in, you know, it's essentially in direct competition with Tsushima. Tsushima was gorgeous. It was absolutely beautiful
really though,
to get in
man.
and explore. And by comparison, coming to this, it feels like I've gone back to like PS3 generation in terms of the exploration. Like right here, this is a good example of it. During the little flight path here, like looking out into the distance, like I can see textures and stuff, but like look at the water, look at the grass. Nothing feels alive here. It just feels like a background almost. And, you know, I don't think that's an issue when I play Neo, because I'm so focused on the combat and the loot that I'm not terribly worried about the environments. But in an open world game, that is an area that is important to me. I want to feel engrossed in the world. And unfortunately, I just did not feel that while I was going through here. Other things,
it's slightly moving
the
though.
horse riding is really, really goofy. I should have mentioned it earlier when we were on the horse, but go back and watch what it looks like while we're riding a horse. And it is weird. It feels like the horse is on a stick that's just pushing it along the way the feet kick off. In terms of map activities, so typically what's going to happen is you're going to find an area in the map and you're going to kill some bandits that are there. After that, that's going to open up the town and a couple activities will pop up on the map. And then as you complete those activities, your like bond or your trust in that region goes up and even more activities start popping up. So that's a little bit weird the first time you experience it, because I was like, okay, I'm ready to move on from this zone, and I did some stuff, and then all of a sudden it was like, hey, here's 3 more guys you can fight, and I'm like, wait a minute, I just went over there to fight somebody. Where did this come from? So I mean, there's definitely lots of stuff to do. There's lots of activities.
That's
good. There's mini games and the missions, and lots of assassinations and whatnot. But everything I've experienced so far just feels very dated. It feels like, I don't know. It sure as hell doesn't feel like a PS5 exclusive game. I'll say that.
I think that's the biggest. I think that's one of the problems that they saying, but they not really saying. That they upset that it's just for PS5 and it's a PS5 exclusive. Now we already got PS5 at this high bar where these games need to be 4K, 60 frames per second, and also like it has to look really good. Now, Final Fantasy, they were talking trash about Final Fantasy. Now we got Rise of the Ronin being an exclusive. Then I was like, okay, now these exclusives ain't looking like they not looking exclusive enough. So I mean, I guess I see what they mean about like, yeah, the graphics not all that good, and then it should. So now I wonder if it wasn't an exclusive, would it still get the same criticism? That's the question.
Not stacking up to other games in the PS5 exclusive era. No. And I think the thing is, like I said, there's nothing fundamentally wrong with the game. The combat is very tight for what it is. The parries are very responsive. The attack animations look great, as expected of Team Ninja. We have stuff like the Azuna drop and stuff like our EI stance. All that stuff comes in later, but we've seen it in footage. So the stuff that I've come to love in Neo, those abilities do exist in this game. But it feels, playing this, I feel like, man, I really think I would have preferred Neo 3. And I think especially in a year that's so stacked with RPGs. We have Rebirth that just came out. We have Dragon's Dogma about to be on deck. We have the Elden Ring DLC that's coming out later this year.
Right.
We have Wukong coming out in the summer.
Right.
And then we have this dropping right around, or right before a lot of that stuff. And it just feels very dated in both its visuals and its design. You can see this fight here. This is very reminiscent of Sekiro for me, with getting some attacks in and then either dodging the perilous or looking to get a timed parry on the perilous.
That's every game.
There's a lot of Sekiro influence in these fights. It feels more Sekiro than it feels Wo Long, in my opinion. But I think Sekiro did that better. Looking at the exploration, I think Ghost of Tsushima did that better. Looking at the raw combat, I think their own games. I think Neo and Neo 2 did it better. And You know, I think if you're just looking for an open world samurai game and you're not worried about it being a little bit dated on some of the stuff, I think you'll still find enjoyment here. I think there's definitely some fun to be had with playing this, but if you're going into this thinking, this is going to be the next step up from Neo or the next step up from Wolong, I think you're going to be disappointed, because there are quite a few areas that I think were a step backwards from what we've seen recently from Team Ninja. Speaking a little bit about the multiplayer, I know that's been a big thing for people. I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but I can confirm the multiplayer is not just multiplayer free roam. It's in missions. So there's going to be like specific key missions in the game. You'll probably have an NPC along with you, and at the start of that mission, you can engage co-op and summon somebody into the game and then bring them along on that mission. And then when that mission's done, you know, just like another Ronin, they would go about their way and you would go about yours. But it's not just like 4 samurais running into a world getting into trouble. Like, it's going to be small snippets. Like what you're seeing right here, this, like, you know, go in, find the camera, accomplish this goal, head on out. That would be an example of a mission. I don't think this one actually qualifies as a mission, but I've done one where I had to like go into a bandit camp, kill like 3 sub-leaders and then a main leader. And then after that mission was done, I get rewards, yada yada. Some other stuff to touch on. In terms of audio, I think the Japanese voice acting is significantly better. I'd actually started the game in English, but everyone speaks English, but with like a Japanese twang to it. So it's just like Japanglish, which after a while is a little bit weird. And it made me really miss what they did in the Neo franchise, where English characters spoke English and Japanese characters spoke Japanese. You don't see that a lot in games, and I think it's a really cool approach that I was hoping they would have done here, but unfortunately not.
No.
Combat sound effects are all excellent, though, as you'd expect. Music is about on par with what I'd expect from Team Ninja. And given, you know, all of this is very much just early impressions. This is only based off of my first 2 to 3 hours of the game. You know, maybe the combat gets way more depth later on and really opens up. But from what I had a chance to play so far, honestly, I just don't see this game performing very well this year. You know, it's a very stacked year. It's a stacked year in terms of just open world games, let alone, you know, everything that's coming out. And it just feels like everything they're trying to do here is dated, and it's been done better by the predecessors. Some of those predecessors being from Team Ninja. So, you know, I'm going to have like 3 1-hour episodes at launch to give y'all a better idea, but unfortunately this one just ain't vibing with me.
Man, bro, I feel like it's more of an art style with the game, but he did state it like the game is good to play, it's fun to play, but then he's just getting the little bits and pieces like, oh, it don't look like Ghost of Tsushima, oh, it doesn't feel like Noah, oh, it doesn't feel like Sekiro, it doesn't do this, it doesn't do that, it don't feel like that, it doesn't do that. But I don't know, man. Rise of the Ronin, to me, I feel like it's going to be a real fun game, a real fun samurai game. And also, when he said that it's a lot of RPGs, because that's RPG games is a new norm now. People want to play one game long. We don't want these shortcoming games like used to now. Guys want open world games now. Just like how Fortnite did the Battle Royale. Everybody want Battle Royales. Now we in the time of RPGs. That's just what it is. But we're going to check out a little bit of Dustin's, and we'll see what he got to say.
Rise of the Ronin has been a blast so far. While not a graphical stunner like Ghost of Tsushima, I have been very impressed with the depth and sheer number of things to do. The story is compelling and gives you motivation to keep going to see what's next. There's plenty of gear you can acquire to make a stronger build. Characters you meet during your journey will join your crew and fight alongside you. There's a transmogrification system that lets you customize your appearance while also having the best gear possible equipped, and you can pet cats. But more importantly than all that, the core gameplay felt like a mix of the storytelling and exploration in Assassin's Creed 2 with a smidgen of Ninja Gaiden combat and a dash of Dark Souls difficulty. In other words, this recipe seems to be a perfect mix of gameplay ingredients that I've been loving. The main storyline of Rise of Ronin is all about a duo referred to as Blade Twins. In this case, it's believed that the duo are brother and sister who nearly suffered a terrible fate at a young age as their village burned to the ground. Instead, they were saved and recruited into the Veiled Edge as Blade Twins. Highly skilled with the sword, Blade Twins train and grow together as they master their skills. One of your first tests of skill has you infiltrating the ship of historical figure Matthew C. Perry to steal a secret message and assassinate Perry after doing so. This section does a good job of showing off a few stealth elements of Ronin, and also showcases combat with the footage PlayStation sent us to use for this preview. Combat will require precise timing for counters, and you'll need to pay close attention to your ki gauge, which is basically a stamina meter. Getting hit too much while blocking will deplete your ki, but parrying your opponent or damaging them will result in a loss of their ki. Deplete all their ki, and they'll be left open for a devastating attack. The back and forth is a lot of fun in practice, but it's not easy to hit that perfect timing. Each encounter also allows you the opportunity to use stealth to infiltrate an area, and you can take out a few enemies without being seen. But in almost every situation, there will be higher powered foes that will require you to know the combat basics to defeat them and move forward. So while I built a character with a speech trait that opened up some unique dialogue options for me, there's no escaping those necessary combat beats that Ronin does quite well.
All the practice has paid off.
What? Don't move!
After this introductory section, Ronin really opens up. Our preview window promised 2 hours of playable content, but it turned out it was much more than that. We were given access to a large open world that included countryside towns and open fields, as well as city spaces with different types of missions located at each. In these sections, you can choose to take on story quests, side quests, customize your longhouse, or play minigames alongside other activities.
And that's a matter of fact, that's probably why PlayStation has sent over a video for them to talk about, because it seemed like everybody was kind of playing a little bit more than 2 hours. They were playing like 5-6 hours, so they would have showed way more stuff than what they actually want them to show. So I really upset about that one.
Missed. The provided footage we're allowed to use in this preview does a good job of showcasing a smattering of options available to players, but even this feels like it's just a glimpse into what's available, as I haven't even played some of what you're seeing yet. One notable mission in the footage was a story beat where I fought alongside the eccentric Ronin to gain his allegiance in one of the battle missions. In our preview, battle missions allow us to gain ally allegiance as part of core story missions. These are fun excursions that have bonus objectives like defeat 3 formidable foes, and will have an impact on the overall story you wind up experiencing. The main objective in this case was to defeat Gonzo and decide his fate before looting some forged documents that would complete the quest.
Right.
I could have murdered him right there, but I instead chose to spare Gonzo. Fast forward to the open world section, and I meet a character in the middle of nowhere asking me to deal with a person who swindled him out of money. Who did it turn out to be? None other than Gonzo, who was getting into trouble again, even after I spared him earlier.
Bro.
This time I can finish him for real, or have him join my crew. Had I chosen to kill him off, I would have been rewarded with some loot, but if I didn't, I got an extra helper to fight beside me in the open world. I'll take that over a few trinkets any day. And I discovered these different outcomes because I reloaded my save just to see what would happen had I chosen the other option. And while I had really been having fun with Rise of the Ronin up until this point, this was the moment that really solidified how much I was liking this game. Great combat, an intriguing story, decisions that matter, tons of stuff to do, and you can pet cats. I'm sold. My decision to spare Gonzo would pay off too, because in my upcoming story mission fight with Kira, I now had 3 allies going into battle instead of just 2. Myself, the eccentric Ronin, and Gonzo were an unstoppable trio ready to take Kira down. And that's just in the opening missions. I am tremendously excited to see who else I can recruit into my group. These were the core missions that we got to experience in our preview, but there's a lot more to do. While running in the open world, you might come upon towns that are overrun with troublemakers that you'll need to dispatch to restore order. There are mini games like the Gatling gun firearm range that was teased in the footage Sony sent over, or the glider mini games that challenge you to break all the targets floating in the sky. And while they didn't show much of it in the video that we're allowed to use, there's an entire gear system at play that encourages you to learn different weapons and use tools like the sub-weapon class that includes things like throwing stars, rifles, bows, and more for combat to get a leg up in battle. That's in addition to your main weapons, by the way, which have a smattering of samurai classics. Rise of the Ronin is poised to give players a lot to dive into, and while it doesn't quite live up to PlayStation's first-party open-world exclusives in the graphics department, the developers at Team Ninja have focused on what's important. An engaging story that has a great hook to keep you exploring, a fun gameplay system that will keep you striving to perfect your skills, and all of that is found alongside a smattering of fun activities to challenge yourself with. I can't wait to see how it all comes together when Ronin launches later this month. For more on...
that's not bad, man. That's not bad, man. Hey, look. That's just what it is, bro. Some gonna like it, some gonna hate it. But it's the same as Dragon Dogma 2. Guys, let me know what y'all feel about these previews down below. But I'll see y'all guys in the next one. Peace.